For everyone who says that they couldn't live on Vancouver Island because it's too gloomy and gray, we get it. You're jealous and you have no plans to live anywhere else in your life. That's cool, you do you. Now, for all the people that wonder what it's like to live on an island on the west coast of Canada, this video is for you. Sure, we have mild and beautiful summers without the threat of wildfires, but how bad are the fall, winter, and spring months when it comes to rain? Join me as we look at the weather phenomena that affect the west coast of Canada and the variables that can cause these issues so you can decide whether or not the haters are right about living here on Vancouver Island. Now, before we get started, if you're not from Vancouver Island, I highly recommend you subscribe to this channel. We love putting out content about what it's like to live the island life and how beautiful it is to be here and the things you can do. Now, without any further ado, let's talk about the other side of the coin and see how gloomy it can get during the winter months. Now, we've already made a video about the 4 different seasons on Vancouver Island, and you can watch that by clicking the link up here. But this video will be about breaking down the factors that cause some of the biggest downpours and the terms that you may not be familiar with about these different weather phenomena. Now, before we get started, first we need to establish the effects of things called El Nino and La Nina on Vancouver Island. These terms may sound completely foreign if you're not from the West Coast. These climate phenomena influence the weather patterns across the Pacific Ocean, and they can lead to variations in temperature, precipitation, and overall weather patterns across the island, though specific impacts vary each year depending on the strength and the duration of the event. The warm phase is El Nino, and this is when surface temperatures rise in the Pacific Ocean, becoming warmer than usual. This shift in ocean temperature can cause significant changes in the global weather patterns, including those on Vancouver Island. What this means is warmer winter weather, and this often results in less snow and rain, especially on the island's southern and central parts. Now, this could mean drier conditions, as El Nino tends to reduce the amount of rainfall on Vancouver Island, especially in specific areas. For example, areas like Nanaimo and Victoria, this could lead to a much drier than usual season. Now, the cooling phase is called La Nina, and in contrast, La Nina occurs when the surface temperatures of the Pacific Ocean are cooler than average. The cooling can trigger different weather patterns and often leading to the opposite effects, of course, of El Nino. Both phenomena are part of natural climate variability in the Pacific, and while the effects are often predictable in general terms, I guess, the exact severity of their impacts can vary from year to year. Another strange term is atmospheric rivers. These typically form when warm, moist air in the tropic oceans is funneled towards the west coast by large-scale weather patterns. The moisture gets condensed in a narrow band and travels over long distances in the atmosphere, which, when this moisture encounters mountains, can cause a huge downpour. These are powerful weather phenomena that brings intense rainfall and strong winds to Vancouver Island, particularly along the west coast. While these events are critical for replenishing water supplies, they can also lead to flooding, landslides, coastal erosion, and other hazards, especially in storm-prone areas like Tofino and Ucluelet. On the other hand, East Coast Vancouver Island, including cities like Nanaimo and Victoria, it's typically less affected by atmospheric rivers, but they can still experience periods of heavy rain, especially when the storms move across the entire island. Now for a more familiar term, a hurricane, or as they're known in the Pacific Ocean, a cyclone. Cyclones, they can potentially affect Vancouver Island, but they are relatively rare and typically less intense, well, much less intense, than regions closer to the equator. This is because Vancouver Island is located far north of the tropical paths of tropical cyclones, which generally form over warmer waters in the Pacific Ocean. However, Vancouver Island is occasionally impacted by storms that have originated from tropical cyclones but are later transitioned down to extratropical or tropical depressions. Sorry, there's a million terms for these things. Nonetheless, they're much less intense storms if they do indeed hit us. These storms can cause flooding, landslides, and coastal erosion, especially in areas directly along the waterfront, which are highly exposed to these types of weather systems, again on the west coast. Preparing for potential storms, including monitoring forecasts and having an emergency plan, is crucial for residents in these areas that are going to be heavily affected. Now, if you are planning on buying a house on Vancouver Island, I recommend watching this video right up here. This is where we discuss the 5 things you want to look at on the exterior of a home when you're buying a property on Vancouver Island. Obviously, due to the climate, the weather, how rain falls, sheds, collects off of a property, different things you need to look for and be aware of before you buy a home. With that in mind, I hope you get to live the island life soon. And if you want to learn more about doing so, I would highly recommend watching this video right here or this video right here.